And welcome everybody to the Final Yard here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Louis Sung, and joining me today is Michael Quirk, who I'm told did a fantastic job last week. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, Louise. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. So the Miami Dolphins have just improved to 5-7. So we've got a lot to talk about as this game came. It actually was a lot more fun to watch than I thought it was going to be as things started off. But let's go ahead and we'll jump right into it in just a moment. First, we're going to go ahead and give a big thank you to our sponsors. Number one is going to be ThriveFantasy. ThriveFantasy is your number one spot, especially if you're a beginner trying to get into the world of fantasy football. You can go ahead and choose the over and the under on any one of 10 different players. Just go ahead and choose the over and the under on how well you think they're going to do for that day, and you'll go ahead and you'll be able to get some big time wins if you manage to pick the right guys. So very important for you to go on to thrivefantasy.com, use the promo code 5, I believe it is 5, and we'll be able to go ahead and you'll get yourself all started up. They'll match up to $100 on your first initial deposit. Now, because the Dolphins are doing a lot better, we actually have a couple more sponsors to go ahead and thank. So I'm going to give a big thank you as well to everythingtradeshows.com. So if your company is looking for a trade show, if you need to give up an exhibit, or if you need to get yourself going again after your marketing team maybe isn't all the way back yet, you can go ahead and check out everythingtradeshows.com. They'll handle the logistics, they'll handle the booth, they'll give you the graphics you need, furniture, flooring, even some tips to help you get out there if you need some extra little tips, especially in this COVID-19-ish environment still. So all you got to do is you can go ahead and they'll give them a quick call. They'll be able to help you out with there. Also, make sure that you mention 5 reasons and you will get a free booth rendering. Again, that is everythingtradeshows.com. Mention 5 reasons. And finally, for all of you guys who are maybe looking to, maybe you're more advanced in the world of betting, you guys can check out betus.com. So again, sports betting season in full force. If you're not looking for Thrive, maybe you're looking for something else, maybe you're looking for something a little more in depth with your betting, then you're going to need a sports book with integrity and longevity like betus.com. BetUS have been pioneers in the sports book industry for almost 3 decades, thriving, paying their local customer base, their loyal customer base. That is betus.com. That's betus.com. They have tons of bonuses. Join now or call 800-69-BET-US. That is 800-MY-BET-US. You receive a 125% sign-up bonus by using the bonus code 5. They have re-up and referral bonuses also. And BetUS is known as America's favorite sportsbook for more than 5 reasons. All right, so a lot of stuff to say, but hey, you know what? We got to get things going somehow, right? And now we are actually joined by Mr. Jacob Michelle, who was at the game. And I'm told in the 5 Reasons Dolphins group chat that you actually have a lot to say, sir. So you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and set aside. The floor is yours. What are your thoughts?
The story of today's game was actually the rookies. I mean, they've been balling out all season long. There was a big question on whether Greer and Flores hit on Jalen Phillips, and I think today showed that they really hit on him because he had 3 solo sacks. He could have had 4 or 5. The man was just bringing the heat all day. The defense in general was bringing the pressure all day long, and you see it carrying over from Baltimore, from New York. I don't know what happened, but something clicked in this defensive coordinator's mind, and now Miami is proving themselves to be a defensive powerhouse like they were last season. So my story of the game was just the rookies. Waddle, obviously, with 107 yards on a few receptions there, and Holland, obviously, with that interception. So that's my take with the rookies today.
Hey, Luis, I think you're muted.
Oh, am I muted? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. All right. So basically I was wondering where did Jacob go? But anyway, but yes, the way that things worked for the rookies, as much as we want to give Chris Greer a lot of crap for not being able to take care of everything today, you know what? We have to give credit where it's due. Javon Holland, home run pick. Jalen Phillips, home run pick. And we can't even forget about Jalen Waddle, because Jalen Waddle has been the only real spark of the offense for a while now, aside from Mike Gesicki, who I'm still hoping the Miami Dolphins will actually find a way to extend him. I mean, they didn't restructure Xavier Howard's contract for nothing, I hope. I hope there was some kind of plan there. So we have to give credit where it's due to Chris Grier for doing that much. And now the question becomes, do you trust him to run the future of the franchise? I'm still not that far into it, but I have to, again, give credit where it is due. So, Michael, what are your thoughts on this game? How well the rookies did, how everything looked? Because so far it seems like it's very difficult to find too many negatives. I mean, I'm sure I'll nitpick somewhere down the line of the show because that's just what I'm good at. But I want to go ahead and talk about the good stuff first.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, for me, Tua. Tua, again, looking more comfortable, playing to his strengths. It seems like they're game planning to his strengths as well. He was super accurate today, even if you take apart just the 4 incompletions, just one more incompletion than the Panthers had interceptions total. But he had one throw midway through the third on, I believe, a 3rd and 6, where he threw off his back foot to Jalen Waddle, and Dante Jackson was all over him, and he threw it to the only spot that he could. Even on that last drive in the red zone, with just over 3 minutes left, he threw it to Preston Williams, an incomplete pass, but he was throwing toward the interference. And that's a pretty savvy move for a guy just in his second year. So you have to feel good about Tua. If you're going to hammer him for not falling on the fumble, that's like criticizing a manager in baseball about, oh, you made this pitching change and then the guy hit a home run. If he would have picked that up and made a completion or even thrown it away, we'd be praising him. But that's just the way that rolls. And didn't have an interception today, so really eliminated that one awful throw that he seemingly had, even as he's played well. Jalen Waddle, 9 receptions on 10 targets. They feel more and more comfortable as time goes on. And what we've said about Tua is his anticipation is elite. And that throw to Waddle, where he hit him in stride, and Waddle was able to do what he does best and get in open space, make guys miss, and utilize his speed. That you really love to see. And as y'all mentioned, Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland look great. If you're building a franchise, and Ethan hit on this last week of saying, hey, I don't want to hear about if the Dolphins can sneak into the playoffs. It doesn't even matter if they could, which it looks seemingly impossible, but you want to know what you have. And you want to have a franchise quarterback, you franchise pass rusher, you want to have a franchise blindside protector. And the Dolphins have 2 of those things, I believe. Jalen Phillips is getting better and better as time goes on. He looked dominant today at times. He was showing just how athletic he is, just how freakish he is, that we all knew when he was coming into the draft. So that was really exciting to see. Just God forbid have to fix the offensive line. It's a broken record, but it's an important broken record.
That's the one thing about it. And again, I will nitpick on the Miami Dolphins later on in the show. But first, I want to continue praising the guys that we've got right now. And by the way, since you brought it up, yes, I did initially tweet that it looked like Tua bobbled the fumble. But again, you got to remember that it's a split-second thing that you see it. And it looked like to me that Tua bobbled the fumble because he bobbled one earlier. And immediately, by the way, my mentions blew up with I'm such a hater. This is why I say, listen, Joe Shad, he tweeted out that Tua is the most polarizing athlete the Miami Dolphins have had ever, more so than Ryan Tannehill by a long shot. And the reason why is it's proof positive. I was a Tua stan leading into this game. I was a Tua stan 2 quarters into this game. And then Tua and then that happens. I tweet that one thing, which, by the way, I later corrected by mentioning Austin Reeder instead, and just blew up with people telling me I'm a hater. I despise Tua Tagovailoa and the very earth that he walks on. Sheesh. Like, give me a break, man. Give me a break. I don't want to hear that. If anything, I'm much closer to the stand part of it than I am on the hater side of it. So I don't want to hear anything about me being a hater. In fact, I know that one guy in the chat, I'm sure he'll pop up later. He's going to say that I'm making excuses for Tua because he does that every week. But anyway, it's very difficult to come away from this game and think that Tua is anything but a potentially excellent quarterback. Again, this is what the Drew Brees thing was supposed to be about. He's supposed to be somebody who can just pick apart a defense, which, by the way, the Carolina Panthers were ranked number 1 overall in pass defense. to my knowledge. So that means that on the best defense in the NFL against the pass, Tua Tagovailoa officially went 27 for 31, 230 yards passing, a touchdown. Yes, he only averaged 7.4 yards per pass, but you know what? If you don't need to go deep, yeah, it can be the most boring game ever, but you know what? It's not going to be boring when they score, which is exactly what the Miami Dolphins did. 33 points they put up against the Carolina Panthers today. And mind you, this is without a even average offensive line. Average, not even good. Forget good for a second. Average. And he managed to do this against the Carolina Panthers. Now, granted, Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick, they were having their little issues today off the field, and that did have an impact on how much of damage they could do. But this is exactly what you wanted to see from Tua. If you're looking for deep bombs and you're looking for huge highlight reel plays, then yeah, you should have gone with Justin Herbert, because that's the kind of mentality that he can have with his cannon of an arm. You can afford to do that more. Tua is from the very get-go, cerebral. He is surgical. He is the guy that if you give him a little time to work, he will pick apart a defense piece by piece by piece by piece until it's death by a million cuts instead of the one big nuke that just drops on you. And so that's the kind of quarterback that Tua is. That's the kind of quarterback he has been. And this was an excellent example of what he could develop into if he's given time consistently. If he's given time consistently, this is exactly what Tua can do. And by the way, Philip Lindsay, coming out of nowhere, he looked like the hardest runner on the team, by the way, more so than Myles Gaskin. And I'm sorry to Myles Gaskin, because I know that he's been the guy all this time. If you give me a choice right now, based on what I saw just today, I'm going to choose Philip Lindsay running the ball over Myles Gaskin. Now, I don't know about that catching the football. I've been told that Philip Lindsay has hands of stone, so I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't watched much of Philip Lindsay, but if that's the case, well, then fine. If you want to do that, make Myles Gaskin the change of pace back and let Philip Lindsay run the ball a lot. That's my mentality anyway. So I feel like there is a shot here, and I don't know what happened to Duke Johnson. I guess once Lindsay came in, Johnson became irrelevant. I feel like that's not fair to Duke, because I still feel like between all of them, I think Duke Johnson might still be better than the guys that are on the roster now. So if I'm Miami, I'm still looking hard at a running back next season. I'm looking to see if there are any available guys in the top, maybe in the top 2 rounds. I'm looking for somebody who's a running back. That's where I'm looking, because I want a top NFL running back. I made a list not that long ago of all the running backs that Miami's passed on, and almost every single one of them is lighting up the NFL. And we could have had shots at all of them. All of them we passed on. So I guess I'm getting into the nitpicking part now, aren't I? Let's see. I'm trying to be positive first. Michael, you want to say something positive first?
Yeah, I'm really happy to see that Tua to Waddle connection. Really happy to see that the secondary still played really well. Of course, Xavier Howard had that pick. Nick Needham had that pick, even without Brandon Jones, who I've been incredibly high on. Andrew Van Ginkel was a guy that you thought was going to take that next jump. Get him more snaps, and he could become, I don't want to say the guy, but you expected that jump forward for him. And he's been pretty inconsistent this year, but he was constantly in that backfield. And it's not a great Panthers offensive line. If you talk to Panthers fans, you hear a lot of the same things that Dolphins fans are saying. But Van Ginkel looked great. Butler was continually a problem. Christian Wilkins was a nightmare. That's what you want to see out of this Dolphins bunch. And when the offense is controlling the time of possession and getting a lot of third down conversions and pushing the ball down the field, you give that defense a chance to rest. And if they're fresh, they can cause havoc. They can go and get the quarterback, and you saw that today. And so that's certainly encouraging. It's a lot of what we expected to see coming into the year, and then of course there were some hiccups during that early season stretch of losses. So I was really happy to see that the defense pick up, and I've been really hard on the co-OCs. And I always think back to The Office when there's the co-managers of Jim and Michael, and Oscar says, "Oh, where would Catholicism be without the popes?" And I still think that a change needs to be made at OC or both OCs. But they called an all right game today. I like what they did. I like what they had in mind. I like how they stretched the Panthers, and like you said, that's a great Panthers defense with Burns and Reddick and all those dudes in the secondary, even with J.C. Horn out. That touchdown with Gaskin, where he took it in on that sweep to the left, that was actually great blocking. I tweeted out, got to give credit where credit's due. It's a much maligned offensive line. They struggle on their assignments. You saw that on that screenplay, the second to last possession before the half, the one before the fumble, where they had a million blockers out there for Gaskin on the screen, and it seemed like nobody picked up who they were supposed to. But on that touchdown with Gaskin, they cleared away. Great play call, worked out to perfection. So even though I'm still not high on the co-OC concept or those dudes up there, it was a pretty nice game plan today.
I mean, yeah, back to the nitpicky part, like, for me, it's like the same three guys on the offensive line every time. It's Eichenberg, it's Davis, and it's Jackson. Jackson had penalties today. Eichenberg also had penalties, and he let up a sack. And then you got Jesse Davis, who gets beat on a lot of plays. And I think if Miami wants to take that step to the next level and compete with playoff teams, they have in the last 3 games, but with the Ravens. But you need to go out and get offensive linemen to replace those 3 guys, because those guys have been weighing you down all season long. You see Austin Jackson with the occasional like first round pick type play, but in general, these 3 players have let up the most pressures in the NFL, and you need to replace them.
How about Austin Jackson making a show of things when, was it someone else along the line had a false start? I know Jackson had 2 of his own, but he threw his hands up, and I said, man, that's a lack of self-awareness there, that you're giving someone else flack for a false start.
Well, Tua got heated too. He when Austin Jackson did a fall, I think it was Austin Jackson that did a fall.
It was Austin Jackson. I remember distinctly that happening, and the fact that Tua slammed the ball down on the ground. He was mad, man. He's like, dude, really? Again? It's like, he's annoyed, man. And I don't blame him one bit. Again, reminder, I didn't want to start nitpicking so early into the show, but it's just like, this is the reality of things. The one thing holding this team back, really holding the team back. Like, you can argue the GM, you can argue the coaching a little bit, but the real thing that's been holding this team back, and it's been holding them back since the Tannehill years, the offensive line. That line cannot get good. I don't understand why it's so difficult. You know, I've reached a point, and this is why I said this like a few shows now, is that Miami needs to just go ahead and they need to hire assassin offensive linemen, just like the Kansas City Chiefs did. I know for a fact that Teron Armstead is going to be a free agent next season. I'm signing him to a big money contract. I don't care if he's older. I don't care if he's an injury risk. I don't care, because he's the best shot at actually being good, because as long as he's healthy, he's good. No questions about that. None. The next thing I'm doing is I'm going to see if I can maybe squeeze Brandon Scherf away from what is it? He's in where is it? He's in Washington right now, right? Brandon Scherf? Yeah, because he got franchise tagged. So I'm going to go ahead and get him in there. So that's going to take care of the left side of the ball. I'm going to maybe see if I can find a new center in the draft, because we passed on a couple of them and they were good. So that's another thing that Miami needs to work on. Right guard, you know what? I'm not willing to give up on Robert Hunt just yet, but I may consider trying to get him in at right tackle instead, just to see what happens. Because there's arguably that he's the best right tackle on this team right now, but he can't play right tackle because he's playing right guard. And then, of course, the right tackle position, assuming you leave Hunt at guard, I guess you can go with Eichenberg, give it a shot, see if he can fix it. But at the same time, I'm still looking at potential veteran replacements, because I want this offensive line thing done, man. I'm tired of this constant, desperate attempt to fix it with either bargain bin guys or just projects, because Miami has proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that the Miami Dolphins cannot develop project offensive lineman, at least not in a short period of time. Durval Quires-Neto, over the many years that he's been in Miami, just in training camp alone, he might have something there. Maybe. I'm going to bring him in as a reserve next season. That's definitely what I would do, because he has to be on the active roster next year, because he has to be on the active roster, because that whole exemption thing for the International League is gone now. So after this season, that's it. So he either has to make the roster or he has to get going. So, but I liked a lot of what I saw from him in preseason. I liked a lot of what I saw from him in camp. I want to see what he can do in actual NFL time. So that's what I'm looking at. And there's potential. There is. It's just not in the spots that they're in right now. This team can be really, really, really good if the blocking is just there, because Tua's doing what he's doing right now. And I get that there's not a lot of deep shots. There's not a lot of excitement in his throws. It's all just kind of dink and dunk stuff.
He's never gonna have. It's not his game though, so he's never gonna take the deep shots downfield. So that's what they're looking for.
Well, I wouldn't say he's never gonna do it, Jock. He's done it in Alabama. He did it in Alabama a lot. He went deep plenty of times in Alabama.
He needs the blocking.
His game though. His game.
I didn't say it was his game. I'm not looking for him to become a highlight reel. Like, oh my god! Like, please welcome Jakari to the show, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Intermediate to short passing assassin. It's okay. You don't need that great of an offensive line for how his game is. It is. You just need an line who can hold up.
Okay, but you want one though, right?
No.
You want one though, right?
I want what? A good O-line.
An offensive line?
Yes.
Thank you.
They need this offseason, they need to go get a linebacker, a running back, and a whole new O-line. Just not a whole new. I think Eichenberg will be good at guard. Still to be determined there. Hunt, but left tackle got to be addressed for sure. And I agree with your take. I will go get a veteran left tackle like Armstead. Only thing with him is his injury history. Can he stay healthy?
You know what? Like I said, I'm willing to take the chance because I know what he can do. And he's a lot better than Austin Jackson. Go ahead.
I think it's time for Jesse Davis to go. I think he's reached his time.
What you mean? You think? We know.
Well, obviously the staff has been wanting him here, and they like his veteran presence. But it's time for him to. His veteran presence isn't even significant anymore. I
don't need Jesse Davis cut. I need him doing what he was supposed to be in the first place. He's supposed to be an emergency backup at every position. That's what he's supposed to do. The fact that he's starting is the problem.
What's driving me nuts is seeing all the folks on Dolphin Twitters and in comments section talking about what offensive linemen they want to draft, when it's been shown time and time again that the Dolphins take guys higher than anyone else is willing to take them. With your Jackson taken a lot higher, probably a round higher, Eichenberg taken higher, Hunt taken higher, even going back to Jawan James taken higher. And
Jawan James was actually good though.
But still, he was an overdraft. The only guy who they took at an appropriate spot was Laramie Tunsil because he fell to them because of the gas mask. And they can't develop guys. And for some reason, like you said, Luis, they keep going cheap as well. When they try and put Band-Aids on a bullet wound, keep signing these guys to 1 year, $2 million, 1 year, $6 million deals. Go get guys who are good at the position. We keep having this issue year in and year out of bad offensive lines, and we keep doing the same thing to try and fix it. Just go find guys who you have to pay more than anyone else to come down here and be good at what they've been good at through their whole career. I just don't get why we keep going cheap and keep going young there when it's giving us the same results. And that is the biggest thing, hands down, that's holding this team back. You can talk about having injury-prone receivers and this, that, and the other. Fine, but that's not as much of an issue as the offensive line is not given to a time. It's not given plays long enough to develop, and you can't develop a consistent running game with guys who are just swinging doors all the way through.
And by the way, the reason we're complaining about this right now is only because we remember that the Dolphins actually just won 33-10. Okay, we're very happy about how this game turned out.
Mean, you can argue that the regime messed up by trading Thompson if you really want to make that argument. I'm not a fan of the draft pick movement because what did you take with his draft picks when you what players did we take with those.
Okay,
picks
so
that he
if you're talking about the direct results of the trades, then it was bad. But
I don't believe in trading a great left tackle.
Okay, but here's the thing, though.
If you have him on your team right now, is the team better right now? Let's ask that question.
All right, so here's the thing, though, Jock, and this is what I'm going to argue. If you're talking strictly the picks that we got from the next year of trading Tunsil, yes, it was bad. But the Tunsil trade also gave us the ammunition to get the likes of Jalen Waddle, Javon Holland, and also you have here now Jalen Phillips. That was part of it. It was long down the end of the line of the end of that road, but he did have something to do with it. So without that Tunsil trade, we don't have Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, maybe not even Jalen Waddle. We would have to find that ammo elsewhere.
You can argue that you may have that because I think the Dolphins pick. Oh no, I mean it's a slippery slope though because
it is.
You can argue that you would have Holland still, and you would have Phillips. Maybe not Waddle. Maybe we have a.
And that's a big thing though, Jock, because without Waddle, there's no offense really.
Well, I mean, obviously, I was a Waddle. I'm a Waddle guy, and
you were the Waddle guy, exactly. If anybody should be,
I'm happy that they're finally using them correctly. They're doing a lot of things that they should have been doing. But I mean, they played well today. Let's just talk, you have to give them credit. And Brian Flores should never let anybody else call the defense besides him. That has changed the season.
So so do we know for a fact though that he's calling the plays now? Because last time we asked him, "Were you calling plays?" He said, "No, it was still Boyer."
He's definitely calling the plays.
So you're saying he lied?
Look, you can look at the Dolphins defense during that 1-7 period. I think he took over around the Buffalo game. To be honest, if you look at it, just look at it from the Buffalo game. When the Dolphins should have won that game, they shitted the bed or whatever. Look at it from there to now, right? You see a more attacking style defense. They're blitzing a lot more. It looks like how it was last season, right? When they were going down the stretch. I think he doesn't want to take the credit, but he's definitely calling the defense. You can just tell by the scheme, and it looks a lot better, right? So,
but remember back in late October, that it was Xavier Howard who came up on the podium and said that the difference was that they were doing a lot of the things that they were doing the previous season. Now, here's the thing, and this is why it kind of makes me question that. I don't know if maybe Brian Flores is calling the plays and is not telling anybody. Maybe he is, but right now all I have is his word that it's still Boyer. But the difference is that now they're saying that, well, they're going back to what they were doing previously. Well, here's the problem. If that is the case, and Flores decided to take responsibility away from Boyer, if Flores is a good head coach, shouldn't he have told Boyer, or right from the get-go, that, listen, this isn't working? Way earlier in the season, by the way. Way early in the season, they should have done this. Why did you wait 7 losses in before you take over? That doesn't make any sense to me.
But
and this is why I feel like
it's perspective, though, because as a coach, even though our styles may be similar, and for instance, our arguments may be the same, but you're going to present it differently, right? So Boyer and Flores' style may be the same, but Boyer played a lot more zone coverage. He's dropped more than he would bring most times. He was relying more of a 4-man rush to get home, and he was dropping more in coverage. Flores is sending it and saying, look, we paying Howard and Byron Jones to be the top corners, or some of the top corners in the league. Let's see, right? And obviously matchups makes fights as well. The teams they've been playing doesn't have that explosive receiver, across the strength. But, I mean, I really think that the 7 losses in, I just think if Tua doesn't get hurt, I think we're in a different position. Obviously, when he came back with the Falcons and the Jaguars, those 2 losses you can't have because the season is totally different right now, right?
Mm-hmm. This is why we have to have the discussion of, right now we have the New York Giants coming to Hard Rock next week.
Which I think the Dolphins are going to win that game.
They can very easily win that game. If they can bring down Cam Newton like this, they can bring down Daniel Jones. I'm not worried about Daniel Jones any more than I am Cam Newton. So now, this is the question that has to be asked now. This is very much a what have you done now for me lately league. We know this. But here's the thing. and I'm going to ask you this, Jacob, first. Do you think, let's say the Dolphins run the table. Let's say they manage to somehow miraculously end up going 10-7 at the end of this season. They missed the wild card because obviously the fact that they lost 7 games in a row really sabotaged their chances of making the playoffs. Does this give Brian Flores and the same, it's going to be the same because they're connected to the hip, Chris Grier, do they get a pass for what happened earlier this season because of what happened late this season?
You know, if they run the table, I think I'm very confident in saying that they're going to be here next season.
Well, that's not what I asked, whether you think they're going to be. I said, do they deserve it, in your opinion?
I do think they okay, here's what I'm going to say. I think Flores deserves it. I think Grier is on the bubble very much so. He did a very good job in the draft, but he hasn't established the offensive line the entire time he's been a GM with the Miami Dolphins, and that's the big thing. Like you said in previous broadcasts, you said that Grier has had the ability to tear down this team and build a very new team, and he just missed on the offensive line. He thought he could just skip by it and just think none of it, or draft guys that are, like Michael said, way too overvalued and reaching for guys that should not be reached for. And all I'm going to say is that I think it hurts for me to say this, but I want him to have one more year as Dolphins GM. And if he doesn't find the answer at offensive line, then that's his breaking point for me. I think that's where you tell him that's it. If he does a good job and uses his free agent money wisely, because let's be honest, free agency was also not good for Grier at all. He missed on a lot of players in free agency, which also I ding him for. But
so can you clarify on that? Are you talking about the veterans that they signed and cut the year after? Or are you talking about this season specifically, where really the only issue is Will Fuller, who I knew was a bad idea from the get-go?
I'm kind of talking about both, because obviously the veteran leadership was lacking the whole season, and he let guys go. I'm talking about like Van Noy, other guys, Bernardrick McKinney, who's starting on the Giants now.
Well, that's the thing, though, because Bernardrick McKinney was good, and I still wonder why they cut him in the first place. And so that was my issue.
And then my big thing is Will Fuller. Like, obviously you wanted him to come in and be an explosive wide receiver, but like you didn't hit on it. Like, I was excited for Will Fuller. I'm not going to lie. I was like,
I wasn't. I knew he wasn't going to play.
You got me on that. Like, I was wrong about Will Fuller, but I'll take responsibility for that. But Grier is also wrong about Will Fuller. And the man can't stay healthy. He gets one hit and he's gone for the season. So he needs to hit.
I think Will Fuller just don't know if he want to play football no more. That's the real issue with him. He's healthy. He just doesn't know if he want to play anymore.
Well, there's conflicting reports on the whole Will Fuller thing and the status of his actual health. By the way, I'm going to point out Alfredo Arteaga in the chat saying that going 10-7 pretty much guarantees a playoff berth. If that is true, and they actually do manage to make the playoffs based on the numbers, okay, well, that's a miracle for Brian Flores.
Flores is not going to get fired. Now, Grier maybe.
No, I don't think Flores is going to get fired. I really don't. Now, the question was, do they get a pass for the 7-game losing streak? That was my issue.
They're going to get a pass anyway because the quarterback wasn't healthy. Do you think so? What games Tua missed? He missed Tampa Bay.
But Jock, wait, before you jump into that, I'm just going to bring this up. It's not just that Tua wasn't healthy. The defense looked awful. It did. It looked terrible for many weeks. And that's supposed to be the strong point. The personnel decisions, I'm still iffy on that. And just the simple fact that it took this long, after 3 years of being the head coach here now, for things to finally get back to normal, that's the problem that I'm having with Brian Flores.
But I mean, his MO as a coach has been he finishes strong last year.
But you can't start terrible.
But he has in the past. He went 5-4 down the stretch his first year. I think the second year he went 9-3 after we started 1-3. This year he's 1-7, and now he's undefeated down the stretch. So That's kind of been his MO as a player. I mean, as a coach, do I agree with it? Hell no, because I think you don't want to be set behind, 7 games, right? But if Miami wins out, which I think they have a favorable schedule to win out, you got the Saints, who doesn't have a quarterback right now. You have the Tennessee without Derrick Henry, which is, a winnable game. You got Mac Jones, which that's another game. You can still win. Then you got the Giants. That's a winnable game. So they have a favorable schedule down the stretch. So you have to, factor that in. But I personally think they're going to get another year. And I think Greer just has to go in with the same mindset that he had with this draft. I'm going to get 4 impact players or impact players to help me down the stretch. Right?
But he doesn't have 3. He doesn't have like 2 or 3 first rounders to play with this time.
Well, he doesn't need that because you can get an impact player either in whatever round. Javon Holland was a 2nd round pick. He's become an impact player. Eichenberg is typically
okay, but 2nd round is still impact player. Once you get to like 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, then it starts to fall off.
Yeah, but they still could have got an impact player anyway. They just passed on Creed Humphrey 565 times.
I'm still going to get mad at Quinn Miners not being a Miami Dolphin. He was right there for a long time.
But I'm just saying, they passed on some guys that it was like, okay, you passed on the running back position. So I think you just have to have that same mindset. I want to get impact players that's going to help me right away when I'm drafting. And when you have that mindset, you go off the film. You don't go off of development traits. You go off of what I've seen on film. Javon Holland at Oregon was doing the same things that he's doing in the NFL now. He's making plays, good deep middle safety, good tackler in the open field. Jalen Phillips on film, he was a great pass rusher, always had the tools to be a double-digit sack guy. Jalen Waddle, explosive plays. The film doesn't lie, but when you go off development, you watch film with a hesitation. Oh, well, Austin Jackson, he has some really good traits about himself, but he doesn't play with good strength. But you know what? I feel like I can develop him. So you have to take that mindset away. You have to get impact players. And if you look at every team that draft well, they are impact player drafters, okay? Like, we look at the Chargers. They draft pretty well. Derwin James, they just went off the film. Hey, let me get this kid. He's a great player. You look at Slater. You watch the film. He's stonewalling Chase Young, and it's continuing in the NFL. So you just go off of what you see. If you go to the draft with a mindset, I'm getting impact players and not developmental players, it helps you. The development that people need to put in their minds with the draft is you developing guys to become star players. So Javon Holland needed the game to slow down for him, so I'm going to develop his mind a little bit more. So that's the type of development that I think people have to address in the draft and not developing a guy from scratch. Like, we don't have time for that. This is the NFL. You have to win now. So it's not I have 5 years. It's not college football where you get a guy, okay, I have 3-4 years guaranteed you will.
The only type of position that you can afford to have any type of patience with, I think, is quarterback, because quarterback runs the whole thing.
But we're kind of past that point in history now too, right?
Well, that's true. Yes, that part of it I get. But
you look at Josh Rosen, they got rid of him after 1 year. Like, granted, he did.
Yeah, but he hasn't caught on elsewhere. He's just been hopping from team to team, sucking still. So I'm not even if he's bad, he's bad. That's just the reality of it. Now, there is something to be said here. You're starting to see, now that the team is actually performing a little bit better, you're actually starting to see a core that you can try to.
And to add to what you're about to say, you haven't really even seen the full offense yet because Parker's been out and Will Fuller's been hurt. So you haven't really had that, like, damn, what is this offense really can be?
Do we have to talk about them?
Do we really? Guys that
they gone, Jock. They're not here. They're never here.
I've been wanting to trade him for years now.
Who? Parker?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't want to hear crap from anybody because now I have another guy who was like on the trade Parker thing.
Lewis, I told you earlier this year. Call him.
I know, but I got so much crap from everybody over the whole trade Parker idea.
Supposed to call the Lions, Say, listen, you need somebody to throw to. We need somebody to protect. Let me get Taylor Decker, Ferg Parker, sayonara. Like, we don't need him. I don't like players who are soft, and he's a locker room issue. You know he's the guy who's talking and doing all that underneath stuff, and he's a soft player. I can't stand it, and it's very it's whatever. Okay.
All right, so now this win, by the way, here, let's get back to this game. Miami, again, Dolphins won 33 to the Panthers 10, making Cam Newton look like his coming home reunion was cut short because he got benched for PJ Walker. Now, you're starting to see this core start to develop a little bit here. So you're starting to see that there's actually some players that we can take right off into the sunset with and hope for even not just this year, but also for next year and maybe the next few years. So you're starting to see the core develop. Jalen Waddle, Javon Holland, Jalen Phillips. I would like to say Mike Gesicki, but I don't know if the Dolphins are going to pay him. They better. That's all I'm going to say. They better pay him because I see a core there.
I don't know though, because they got 2 tight end candidates that I love to see out there.
Okay. If you say Hunter Long, I'm going to I'm gonna like ask Manning to boot you.
Put Preston Williams at
Preston Williams has the dropsies. I want somebody who can actually catch the ball. Mike Gesicki, please, thank you.
Is a Walmart Devontae Parker without the hands.
But why not put him at tight end though?
Because he's gonna drop the ball there too.
If he gets hurt out wide, he's gonna get hurt bad lining up at tight end. That dude, if you don't like Parker,
he's a great player though. I think his biggest issue, he hasn't matured into a pro player yet. His mindset. He's not an NFL player yet.
Jock, he's dropping passes left and right. This is the same stuff that we got on Jakeem Grant's butt for years.
That's a maturity thing as a pro. Like, he hasn't matured into that pro mindset. You can just tell how he take care of his body. He's not there yet as a pro. Yeah, I think he has to get that mindset.
Wouldn't that put him in the soft category like Parker?
I mean, I think both players. I don't know if Preston Williams is soft because he had an ACL tear, so we can't call him soft because of that. He tore his ACL, then he had hamstring, so it's
I don't want Preston Williams as a tight end any more than I want him as a wide receiver anymore. Preston is a fringe player that if we need him, he can be the backup. But he's not somebody I want starting anymore. I really don't. I really don't think he's going to be good as a tight end. I want somebody who, again, this is the thing. The Miami Dolphins keep doing this, and this is another thing I'm going to have to complain about. They keep finding good players, and then they let them walk and re-sign the guys who are not good. So that's the thing that drives me up a wall with this team. And it's not just with Flores. It's in the past decade, it feels like. They get good players, and then they let them off into the sunset to go be good with other players. We are not the minor leagues of the NFL. We are not developing players so that other teams can benefit from them after they've grown. We need to keep these guys. And Mike Gesicki is number 1 on that list for me of players that need to be extended. We need to give this man a blank check, because as much as I was down on him when he was initially drafted because he can't block, I've come to the realization that the game has changed. They don't want tight ends who can block anymore. Those are reserve players.
You don't need that. You just need them to be able to hold on for 2 minutes, 2 seconds, just hold it off.
Right. So that's why I was down on him at first, because I had been speaking with guys who were like, tight ends need to be able to block as well. Guys like Gronk can block as well as catch passes. But you know what? With as much of a catch radius, as much of a safety blanket that Mike Gesicki provides, as much of a mismatch as he is in the middle of the field, he needs to be on this team. He is a core aspect of this Miami Dolphins roster, and he needs to be for the next 4 years at least, because he has done everything you could ask of him and more. And he's even shown a willingness to get better at blocking, which is something I didn't think he would do. Like, he's tried to get better at his blocking, which is something that I really didn't think he would do. I don't know what else Mike Gesicki has to do to prove that he is a really good player.
I mean,
Miami should be giving him a blank check.
Space, so I think he's going to get an extension.
They should give him a blank check, and I'm going to be very upset if they don't give it to him. I'm really don't.
Check is a little bit.
I mean, he's also not the type of player to get a bunch of money and then start playing garbage. You can't say that. Listen, in my opinion,
all those players, when they get a check, they all play garbage for a couple of weeks now. It's natural it's natural life. Like, you know, if you get $1 million tomorrow, you're not gonna go to work tomorrow. Like, you're gonna sit home for a couple of days and think about it.
Jock, you and I with life in general, we have like I'm listening to what you just said. I'm like, what do you mean I'm not gonna go to work? Yes, I'm gonna go to work. I have a responsibility. I have a duty. Jock, stop. Please. I don't want no, I'm not debating life with you right now. I'm really not. Okay. So I'm not debating life with you right now and personal philosophy on the world as it stands. But anyway, Michael, I want to get you in here. So that we're starting to see a core here. Who do you, besides Gesicki now, is there anybody besides the guys that we've mentioned that you feel like should be extended, even if it's like a fringe guy? Is there anybody on this team that you're seeing do things right now that you think these guys need to be like players that we keep on for the next several years?
Well, I keep harping on, I'm not going to pick anyone on the offensive line. That can go straight away. At receiver, the only guy who I see that I need on this roster moving forward is Waddle. I'm with you. I liked what Lindsey did. I thought that was great that fell into our lap. But of course, one game, 12 carries, I think 42 yards. That's not it. So I want to look at the defense. Jerome Baker and Andrew Van Ginkel. I really love what both of those guys do, and
Baker's been paid, so that's not an issue.
I'm putting together a core on that defensive side. Of course, I love the young guys with Phillips, Brandon Jones, Javon Holland. So for me, I like that Steeler got extended.
That extension wasn't very long, though. It's like, what is it, 2 or 3 years max? Let me see. Go ahead and keep talking. I'm going to look it up.
There's no one for me that's an obvious candidate that I need other than Gesicki. And I don't want to just keep banging on that drum. But you see what teams do for young quarterbacks where they give them a mismatch, a big security blanket, a big target. Like New England with Mac Jones, got him Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. And you see what that's done for them. They're somehow in first place in the AFC East. So getting a guy like Gesicki who has such great ball skills, who is a reliable third down guy, who can be a mismatch nightmare, that's the only guy that I see where I need him in a Dolphins uniform. I said going into the draft that if I didn't see Creed Humphrey in a Dolphin uniform, it was going to cause me consistent pain. Same with Najee Harris, though, getting Jalen Phillips and seeing how he's developed has helped.
And somewhere Juan is just like,
I'm going to be honest, a guy that I think should get extended, and I don't know when his contract is up, is Nick Needham.
Let me double check that. I'm pretty sure that he signed a small extension, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check that. So let me see. Nick Needham, his contract.
Oh, God damn, Ramsey.
Is, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Where is it? I think. Where is he? Okay, yeah, his contract is actually up. He's still a restricted free agent next season, so the Dolphins could potentially re-sign him later.
I think like a nice 3-year, $18 million deal would be good for him. He's a good slot corner, so.
Yeah, Nick Needham, as far as I'm concerned, he can stick around for a good long while. And you know, I look at Nick Needham, and I just think to myself, we wanted this guy gone. Like, everybody wanted him gone. His rookie season. Okay, yeah, here's Jock saying that. No, I didn't say that. Jock, it was like 3 years ago. I don't know what you were saying 3 years ago.
No, he showed flashes, though. He had a pretty good season. He had a pretty good season that year he played. I know, but a lot of the things was they were losing. So a lot of people was like, man, this is just garbage time play. You know
no, Jock, no. It was all the way in preseason. Like, he was the worst player on the field in those games in the preseason his rookie year.
Justin Coleman is the worst player on the field. But
he is now.
It's the same thing with Duke Riley. The man was garbage preseason, had a terrible first start to the season, and now he just made like 3 amazing plays in this game and result.
But I think with Duke Riley, though, is more of this, though. I think his biggest issue is he's a mental case because he got all the athletic ability in the world. Like, he's a freak. Like, he can do everything. It's just, I don't know if up here is clicking all the way.
So,
And another guy we haven't mentioned yet, and it's a big one. Is Wilkins gonna get extended?
Christian Wilkins. Yes, good point. This is the thing. If you drafted him to be Ndamukong Suh, no, he doesn't deserve the extension. If you drafted him to be a really good defensive tackle, then he deserves an extension. That's kind of the distinction here.
I think it's a no-brainer. It's really a no-brainer for me. That's my first priority on this team is Chris. Not only does he bring the energy and the attitude, he's probably the best locker room presence on the team. But he's that guy.
And he does make plays. That's just it. The thing is
he's
that
good. He's good.
He's not a pass rusher though. That's the only thing. If if you drafted him to be a defensive tackle pass rusher, that's not what he is. He's a great run stopper. He's a elite assignment football run stopper, and he stops the run. Him and Raekwon Davis, I think, will make a good tandem for the next 6 to 7 years, however long it may be.
that's why I said it. It's like if you drafted Christian Wilkins to be Ndamukong Suh, you failed because Ndamukong Suh was a pass rusher. If you drafted him to be a really good defensive tackle and leave things open for everybody else to succeed, which again, that was what he did in Clemson. He was in Clemson. That's what he was doing. Like Clelin Ferrell and guys like him, they benefited huge from having Christian Wilkins right there. They made their careers off of Christian Wilkins' back, you could say. Mm-hmm. So that alone makes him worth keeping around. And now this year, he's finally actually starting to get some stats of his own. I don't see any reason why you don't extend him. So that's 3 guys right there that you can say right now, Miami needs to prioritize in the offseason. Christian Wilkins, Mike Gesicki, and I would even argue Emmanuel Ogbah. I really would. What is it, his streak now? 7 games straight with a batted pass, which is the most in the last 20 years. That's 2 decades worth of batted passes that have managed to beat.
The only thing is, though, with Ogbah, he kind of becomes expendable because you have your pass rusher now. Like Jalen Phillips is going to be the main guy going forward.
That's fine. I mean, Phillips is getting his snaps. You put Ogbah on one side, Phillips on the other, done. And besides, I don't see the Dolphins changing their defensive mindset anytime soon. So as long as we keep doing what we're doing, and as long as it keeps working, I don't see the issue. I see Ogbah sticking around because Ogbah provides a little more balance, shall we say. Ogbah is not just a pass rusher. He sets up the run, and yes, he is a veteran player too. By the way, even though he's not at the age of 30 yet, which has kind of been my distinction for real veteran players. Like when I say veteran, I'm talking about guys who have been around for a good long time, and they've kind of become like the war veterans. You know, the guys that you think of, and they're like they have the shady beard, and they're just like I've been around a long time, boy. Like those kind of guys, right? It's like J.J. Watt would be one of those guys. He's not elite anymore on his own, but he still knows how to be J.J. Watt in his brain, and he can pass that on. Those are the kind of guys that I'm thinking of. So Ogbah, who is now starting to do some stuff on his own, like he has 6 sacks now. That's not Cameron Wake numbers, but it's pretty solid, all things considered. And yes, I realize that the Dolphins blitzing a lot helps him out with those numbers. I get that. But he's doing some good stuff, like just having the self-awareness to get your hands up, make sure that you're able to deflect the pass if possible. That kind of stuff counts for things. That makes things happen. So even if you can't sack him, at the very least, you have the potential to stop the ball from getting too far. That happened, twice today? Adam Butler was one, and Ogbah was the other one. So
Jalen Phillips.
Jalen Phillips, 3 sacks.
That's crazy to me. Like I think we're all like underestimating that. 3 sacks is unbelievable in an NFL game, especially for a rookie. That was an amazing achievement today that he got 3 sacks. I know the Panthers offensive line isn't the best, but that was just really impressive.
Yeah, and they deserve credit for that. So this is again where we kind of come. This is kind of where we come to an impasse here, because there's a lot of stuff here that we can point at and say, "Wow, this was amazing," and at the same time, there's still that lingering shadow of what we saw and what we witnessed earlier this season. And yes, that dark cloud hanging over, which is the offensive coordinator situation. Which Brian Flores, I still don't know who he can get to really fix this, because I don't believe in the George Godsey and Eric Studsville 2 offensive coordinator system. It's working now because Tua is getting better and he's finding ways to work around the fact that he has a terrible offensive line. But you can't count on that to always be the case. You don't want your quarterback to constantly be running around in the pocket, desperately avoiding defenders. That's not cool, man. Like, if you want to see big plays, and I understand that that's not Tua's game. Like, his philosophy is not to go deep and see how far he can chuck it. That's not his game. But you would like to have that option if it's there, the potential to do so. Right now, Miami can't do it. It's not a matter of whether Tua's arm can handle it. They can't do it because they don't have the time to make it happen. But if you can give him some time to throw, you have the option of making that happen. So if Tua does have to hang on to the ball for more than a second and a half, then instead of knowing that he's going to get sacked or he's going to have to run for his life, he can at least survey the field a little bit and see if he can find something a little more interesting, if that makes sense. That more than anything matters. So those are the only two things that Miami really has to fix if they really want to do something. Keep the defense the way that it is. If Brian Flores sticks around, fine. But the offensive coordinators need to get better at deciding what they're going to call. And more than anything else, guys, and I think everybody here can agree, the offensive line has to be fixed. If the offensive line is fixed, that by itself will buy the team 3 more wins next season. Whatever their record is at the end of this season,
but
fixing the offensive line gives them 3 more
wins.
wins.
If they make the playoffs, though, that's going to be very exciting.
That's a big if right now, though. So I understand that there's a winnable schedule, but it's still an if because, yeah, the Giants, I get it. Yeah, the Jets again. Yeah, the Patriots again. They're not particularly impressive. We already beat the Patriots, and we beat them. We were in Gillette when we beat them, right?
Yeah.
So,
but they're
like, I get it.
They're a different team at this point, though.
It's very favorable for Miami. It really, really is. But you have to find a way to make this work.
New England is a different team, but New England's very beatable. I mean, they're
beatable, but I'm just saying they're a better team than
they were. No, they definitely are. But Mac Jones has had a pretty easy schedule so far. So when he plays Miami defense, he might digress a little bit.
So we'll see what happens. All right, so we're gonna get ready to wrap this show up. Any final thoughts from any of you guys? I'm gonna start with Michael.
Again, for me, what this was more encouraging evidence from Tua about him being the guy, about him playing to his strengths, about him feeling more comfortable, about him establishing an even better connection with Jalen Waddle, something that I hope we'll see for years to come. So that's very exciting for me. And like y'all all hit on about this defense getting back to the aggressive, exotic defense that we saw all year last year up until week 17. So that was all encouraging to me. And just in the NFL, it's not about style points. It's just about getting wins. But blowing out a Carolina Panthers team who's, middle of the pack, it's exciting to see. It's exciting.
Had the best passing defense in football up until today.
Stars all in the back 7 of that defense. And
yeah, they played a very bad game, but they are probably one of the better defenses in the league.
So, and whether they had a bad game or not, Tua has something to do with the fact they had a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jacob.
All I'm going to say is the defense stepped up big. Offense still needs improvement. But if Miami could be consistent and not be so volatile, losing like an insane amount of games in the first half of the season and now winning an insane amount of games in the second half, they just got to stay consistent and they're gonna be in a good position.
Jock?
Overall, it's just a good win. You're kind of just saying what I think really what's happened here is that you're kind of saying what it would be like if they would have been committed to Tua all the way down the stretch. Even though I was a Deshaun Watson guy, I do, like I said, football only on that man. Obviously, he's a better quarterback, but you're seeing what it is without the noise. There's no swirling rumors every week when he's going out there snapping the ball. Can it be this guy? Can it be that guy? You're seeing what it is to commit it, and they're doing what's best for him on the offensive scheme. It's not like last year with Chan Gailey, where they were calling plays, and you're like, what the hell are we doing? They're calling plays that fits to his game, and you've seen the results of it. 2 back-to-back games of 80% completion. I don't even think you see that in 7-on-7, but overall, I think the Dolphins are going to finish strong down the stretch with a favorable schedule. And I think they have to just stay focused on what's going on and stay focused and looking straight ahead. You can't worry about the playoffs because you kind of let that go, starting 1-7. But if you can, just keep winning and keep it going from here. And I think Miami will be all right. And I think they'll learn from previous mistakes and they'll be more impactful in the offseason this upcoming year.
All right. Well said. So any final thoughts that I have is just that, once again, defense is solid. Tua is solid. There's a lot of good stuff to look at this game and think that there's a shot that Miami can actually be good. Hopefully, if not this season, the next season, they can build on that actually and make things happen. Fix the offensive line. Everything will be better. All right. Going ahead and wrapping it up. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. And a big thank you again to our sponsors. Number one, Thrive Fantasy. You can go on there to thrivefantasy.com. Use the promo code 5. Choose 10 of the available players that you can go on to win some of their contests. You can win big. And at the very least, you can at least get your money back to try to go ahead and try again for next week. Also, another big thank you to everythingtradeshows.com. If you're looking for somebody who can help you out to get you all started with your marketing, they'll go ahead and they'll take care of your booth, your graphics, your furniture, your flooring. They'll help you with some marketing tips. All you have to do is you can give them a call at 954-791-8882, and you can mention 5 reasons to get a free booth rendering. They're based in Fort Lauderdale, but they can service anywhere in the United States of America. And again, a big thank you as well to BetUS. They are some of the most they have great integrity. They have great longevity in BetUS. They have been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, and they've paid their loyal customer base for the longest time. Again, betus.com. Use the promo code 5, and you can go ahead and get on that right now. All right. So once again, thank you everybody for joining us. We will see you all next week for another episode of The Final Yard.